This idea that as long as we have every participant in every transaction prove their identity, and we can track and control every transaction through this totalitarian surveillance system, we will end crime. And in order to believe in that false idea of safety through totalitarian control, we condemn billions of people to poverty.
We're sitting at a historical crossroads where the future of money is going to be digital. We're seeing a concerted effort around the world to ban cash, to reduce the availability, the value, and the liquidity of cash everywhere in the world. We saw India demonetize the top 2 value notes they have. Spain is passing a law to make it illegal to make any transaction more than 1,000 euros in cash. Probably the 500 euro, 100 euro notes are going to disappear eventually. You're seeing this process of demonetization, of removing cash from the economy in order to funnel it all into banking systems that are under constant control and surveillance. This is a very dangerous future.
And that's usually because they want the taxation or they want the legislation. Either they see that money used by corrupt parties or they just use that as an excuse to control it.
The biggest criminals in the world have banking licenses of their own. They don't need to money launder. They own HSBC and that money launders for them. You know, the biggest money launderers in the world are the banks, obviously, because that's where the money is. The easiest way to money launder is if you have a banking license. So of course, the biggest money launderers have banking licenses. These are excuses. What they want to do, of course, is, they say, taxation and corruption, but in fact, this actually increases corruption. So removing cash from an economy and putting everybody under surveillance doesn't mean that criminals can't use money anymore. Of course they can. They will continue to do that. They will always have means of doing it. It just means that everybody else is under surveillance. So you end up surveilling the innocent. What does that give you? That gives you political control. We've never had in the history of humanity the ability to monitor everybody's economic activity all the time. And to give that power to governments without question is extremely dangerous. It won't reduce crime, but it will turn governments into criminals. It won't reduce corruption, but it will increase corruption at banks. And it will put people at the mercy of a system in which, at a flick of a binary switch, you can become a non-person. Went to the wrong website, attended the wrong protests, associated with the wrong political party, expressed support for the wrong idea, off. You no longer exist. You can't buy food, you can't buy anything, you can't earn anything, and all of your money disappeared.
Because we don't give you a bank account, and since you can't use cash for anything, then you basically are a non-citizen.
You are a non-person. And what this will end up doing is it will end up putting the burden, again, on the most powerless in our society, right? The poor, those who don't have ID, undocumented immigrants, victims of human trafficking, refugees. These people are going to be suffering the burden to create this bourgeois illusion of safety and give massive powers to governments that certainly haven't earned the trust to have these kinds of powers. Criminals will have privacy. The question is whether the rest of us will. And so that is the thing. Criminals will use these systems. Criminals will bypass the rules. Criminals will bribe and corrupt officials, and they will bypass the rules. They will deal in gold or Rolexes or cars. In fact, at some point in the height of the crack epidemic, they tried to ban cash in Baltimore in the United States, and criminals switched to using Tide detergent as cash. Fungible, transportable, brand unforgeable, and useful.
Just crates of Tide, move it around different
Right.
warehouses.
There will always be criminal activity. That's part of society. Changing the way money works only ends up punishing the innocent. And so criminals will always have privacy. Brian, do you want to also have privacy? Or do you want only criminals to have privacy and only governments to have privacy?
Money doesn't really exist, it's a theory. If you look at how the world's been acquired, it's been done by a banking scam where you lend people money that doesn't exist. We call it credit. And you charge them interest on it. And if they don't pay the money back plus interest, then you get their wealth that does exist. You get their home, their business, their land, their resources, whatever. And we've been through a process of banks lending credit, figures on a screen, greatly in excess of what they have as assets, called fractional reserve lending. And then when they can't pay it back, because often the banks have taken actions that have crashed the economy, like in 2008, the banks then get all the things they've lent money on, the real wealth of the world. And what's happened in this process of lending credit, getting the real resources when they can't pay back the credit, has sucked the wealth of the world, the real wealth of the world, into the hands of very, very few people, and left out there most of the rest of the population with something called money. And money only buys anything because we take it seriously. It's just a piece of paper, and this is the point, it's meant not even to be a piece of paper, it's meant to be purely electronic. We have this fresh air money that is worth something because the buyer and the seller believe in it, and only because of that. And the real wealth of the world has been sucked into the hands of a very few people by lending this scam called credit. Another interesting thing about this money situation is when you go to a bank and you say borrow 50,000, they'll type into your account 50,000 in credit, but you're not paying back 50,000. You're paying back 50,000 plus interest. The interest is never created, only the principal. Because people think that governments create money. Money is overwhelmingly created by private banks issuing credit. That's how so-called money comes into circulation. So, what this means is creating credit for the principal but not the interest, is that at no point is there ever enough money, credit or otherwise, in circulation to pay back all the debt and all the interest on the debt outstanding. So people losing their homes and their businesses and their resources, etc., is built into the system on purpose. Now, when there's an expansion of the money supply, Peter paying Paul, that seems, to hide it to an extent. But once you squeeze the money supply, you take money out of circulation, it becomes obvious that there's nothing like enough money in circulation to pay back all the debt. So there's people losing their homes, their resources, their things that they own, for no other reason that there simply is not enough money for everyone to pay back the debt. So what do the banks do? Ooh, we'll have that. And this has been going on for centuries, and they've hijacked the real wealth of the world by doing this. And the next stage, which is in my books from the early 1990s, is the cashless society. I was pointing out, purely by knowledge of what this agenda was, that they were going to get rid of cash. And look at it. Cash is flying out of circulation. In some places like Sweden, it's almost totally cashless.
A new dystopian store where you're going to be tracked and apt to buy anything. I'm going to buy some strawberries, and I'm offering exactly the right amount of money here on the help desk. So you people take that money, £1.90, and I will take my strawberries outside.
You can't
If
take
you want to
that.
call the police,
You can't take
call
that.
the
Police is on their way. You can't take that. Police is on their way. You can't take that.
I paid by legal tender.
No. Don't break the door. Do not break the door.
I paid by legal tender, and I am going out with my strawberries. And I'm going to eat them. I'm going to eat my strawberries. I paid by legal tender in this dystopian place.
They're shutting down bank branches, so you cannot interact with a bank branch locally with cash. You have to do it online because that's electronic money, and eventually they're going to take the cash out of circulation. Why? Because when you go into a store now or anywhere and you give them a credit card, electronic money, and that they say, sorry, the system won't accept your card, well, you can still pay cash. But when there's no cash in circulation, your electronic money, which is meant to go through a microchip eventually, when they say the system won't accept your microchip or your card, you have no other means of purchase.
I'm at Whole Foods and I'm about to pay for my groceries with my That's the coolest thing ever.
Shopping in the future, no checking out, and the ability to pay with your palm. So I'm visiting Washington, D.C. and I heard that they have a Whole Foods where you don't have to use any kind of scanning, any kind of checking out. They just know what's in your cart as you walk out of the door. Now here's where it gets a little bit dystopian. You can go in and register your palm. So all you have to do is literally put your palm on this device. Apparently you will connect it to something in your Amazon account or your card. And then every time that you want to enter a store, you're just going to scan your palm. It's super crazy. And I also didn't know how much I was spending until I got out of there. They told me how long I spent in the store, and then they sent me a receipt later, and it felt really expensive. I can honestly say I hope this does not become the shopping experience of the future.
Whoever controls the system is dictating whether you can purchase or whether you can't, whether you can eat or whether you can't. And the only other alternative to that would be barter. And I'll tell you what the plan is. The plan is to ban barter, to make it illegal on the basis that they can't tax it. So that's along the line as well. I'm not saying that there couldn't be good things with things like Bitcoin and stuff like that, as long as cash stays in circulation. That's the key. While cash is in circulation, you have other points of or ways of purchase. Once there's no cash and you have only cashless digital currencies, then whoever controls them controls everything. And not only that, they can wipe your bank account. If you're a dissident to the system, as this moves on into more extremes, they can wipe your bank account. And it's just gone. Because all it is figures on a screen. You can wipe figures on a screen in a second. You can, from a central point, crash the entire economy by controlling digital money. And digital processes. And the idea eventually, problem, reaction, solution, create the problem and then offer the solution, is to have a gigantic crash, which they will instigate. And then to overcome the crash, they will propose a totally new economic system of central control to be the solution to the problem they've created, which is crashing the economy. And the more control they have over money digitally, electrically, the easier it is to do that.